Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host, Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
TV is going excellent, bro. And this second round is not disappointing. We're getting some solid games, and we're probably in for a couple of these series going the distance.
Honestly, this entire NBA playoffs have been an absolute W so far. Lots of things to talk about. The storylines, the games itself, everything. The best parts of the NBA are showing up, and we are excited to talk about all of that, especially in today's episode. But before we start today's episode, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our personal socials at the Knockdown J, at TV on Basketball, down in the description below. That's where you can find us. But as in terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, TikTok and Instagram for the best daily NBA content, you know where to find us. If you're on any of the podcast networks, Spotify and Apple, remember to leave a review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It'll definitely help out with the numbers. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and also hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. Jay, the intro out the way. Are you ready to talk some NBA hoops?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but we're gonna start not on the NBA courts right now, because we're gonna be going off the court to another coach firing, which happened this past week. We kind of maybe hinted it might happen, but we weren't 100% sure, but it actually pulled through. Mike Budenholzer, the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, the coach of the NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks in 2021, has been fired after having the best record in basketball and being eliminated, basically embarrassed in the first round series against the Miami Heat, losing in 5 games. Jay, do you agree with the hiring, or do you think that the Bucks jumped the gun too fast?
I think the firing is justified when you think about the makeup of their team and what they're going to be able to do moving forward. Honestly, the Bucks are one of those teams that we didn't talk about a lot during the regular season in terms of what the future holds for them, but they've got a lot of stuff they've got to address. Brooke Lopez, an unrestricted free agent. Chris Middleton, unrestricted free agent. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think maybe he has only 2 years left on his extension that he did most recently.
I think three.
Three?
Yeah.
Well, three. Well. Remember, TV. There's such thing as pre-agency now, right?
Ooh, yeah.
So really, it operates more within a 2-year window, because once you get to that last year in your contract, that's typically when a lot of these players start to kind of flex their leverage a little bit when it comes to the idea of potentially moving on to a different franchise. Not to say that Giannis would do that, but when you think about it logically, yeah, it's about 2 years before that pre-agency context kind of starts to kick in, if not sooner, depending on how things go, because Giannis is a high commodity that could see his window closing quicker than we could have expected, considering how dominant he's been, at least from a regular season standpoint in recent memory. But let's talk about Bud and just his circumstances. I mean, he got outcoached and it wasn't close. Right, because from a talent perspective, the Bucks had them beat, and it wasn't. In that sense, it wasn't close.
Yeah.
But besides just the prowess, pretty much, of who Jimmy Butler is as a postseason player, what Eric Spoelstra was able to do, specifically defensively against Giannis Antetokounmpo throughout this series, kind of was the equalizer when you look at the makeup of what the Bucks have, because Jrue Holiday, we know that he's not a lead offensive creator on a championship caliber team. We all kind of understood that he fits best as a third banana offensively, and he's played best in that role. And this season, he wasn't able to really do that. He was kind of forced into being the first or the second guy, especially with the time that Chris Middleton missed out. Chris Middleton coming back still relatively hobbled, and it kind of seemed like he was still playing a bit injured throughout the postseason. Was not able to assert himself as that on-ball shot creator that can be a number one go-to option down the stretch for the Bucks that he's been in years past, which again forced Jrue Holiday into an unfamiliar spot. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, I went off on this last week. I still stand by this take that I believe that everything we saw about Giannis Antetokounmpo is everything that we've always known about him. Runs high, runs fast, jumps high, physical through the wazoo, to the point that if you cannot body with him, it's good luck. But if you can match his physicality, all he is a player that is just bigger and stronger than most. And when you match that physicality, that doesn't necessarily neutralizes him, but it turns him into a one-trick pony that's run out of tricks, right? His
Yeah.
trick doesn't work anymore. And I hate to disrespect like an MVP like this. Like I'm not trying to come off as somebody that's hot takey or anything. But you pair all of that together. The only thing that was gonna make this team super dangerous, aside from Giannis being just flat out more dominant than most, was if Bud got his shit together. Like I hate to like put it that way, but that's the only way to put it. Bud has constantly been outcoached from year to year in terms of how he's coached certain series, and we pointed it out almost every single year outside of the championship season. And the championship season bought him extra time.
Yes.
We've seen that movie before in plenty of other sports. You win the championship, all of a sudden you look like that guy, despite the fact that they had your head on a stake the week before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just so I wrap up my point, because obviously I want to hear what you have to say as well. I think Coach Bud was the easiest casualty they could afford to have. Because if you don't bring back Chris Middleton, if you don't bring back Brook Lopez, you're probably going to put yourself in a weird position in terms of where Giannis Antetokounmpo views your team in terms of championship equity moving forward. Those are two guys that you're going to have maybe not bird rights on necessarily because of the fact that they're going to be pretty well into unrestricted free agency, but you can pay them more than anybody else, which means you have control over that. One thing you don't have control over is whether or not your head coach still has a hold on their locker room. You have no influence over that. Only the players can decide that. But what you can do is if you can read the room and see that the message is falling on deaf ears, you have to pull that trigger and not wait it out. Because if you wait too late, you see demises like this one. So this might even be considered too little, too late, but they had to do something.
Yeah, 100%. Just because of so much uncertainty around the Bucks' future, and the fact that, I mean, apart from Giannis is like what, 28, 29 years old. The rest of their team kind of aging out a little bit, with the Drew Holidays, Chris Middleton's, Brook Lopez. And they don't have much time left on their deals. Like you mentioned, Chris Middleton has a player option this year, could decline it. There was already some rumors about him going to the Houston Rockets. Brook Lopez, Brook Lopez, there are some rumors swirling around that the Heat want him as a person to put it next to side Bam. There's a lot of rumors surrounding the uncertainty of the future of the Milwaukee Bucks. But the one constant, and I like the point you made, before and you're like a little rant there. Coach Bud has always been in that hot seat since the championship year. Yeah. Like I remember, I think maybe you were even on like my own pod like one of those weeks. We talked about how like in the series against the Brooklyn Nets, if it wasn't for Steve Nash's own his own problems as a coach, because let's be honest, he wasn't a great coach as well. Right. If it wasn't for that, and the fact that freaking Kevin Durant had like a size whatever shoe and stepped on the line, he would be out of a job. Like if he lost to that Brooklyn Nets team with a hobbled James Harden and no Kyrie Irving, he would have been gone the next day. The fact that he got to the finals and won that championship, like you said, with many other coaches, bought him some time. But when you look at the last 2 years and the way that they went out, especially when you look at Game 7 versus the Heat last year, where they got absolutely destroyed, and then you go to this year and see they got even worse. They got beat even badly, more badly this year by the Miami Heat. Then something had to change. Something had to. And look, I'm not saying that Bud is a bad coach either. He is a good X's and O's coach, and you could tell throughout the duration of the regular season that his principles, his game plan, work for long periods of time. Yeah. When it comes to in-game adjustments, that's where he struggles. That is where Mike Budenholzer struggles. And you could point to, I think you can make an encyclopedia of the amount of just coaching errors that he made in that series versus the Miami Heat. He had 2 timeouts in overtime, did not call either one of them. He had 0.5, 0.6 seconds left on the clock, enough for a catch and shoot. He has a timeout. He could advance the ball. They didn't call that. He just said, let's inbound the ball at full court and see if we can get something here, even though he clearly had a timeout. Whether it was him not double teaming Jimmy Butler, whether it was him just like letting Drew Holiday get cooked every single possession and not making adjustments. Like, there's just so many things. And that was just only like a sample of kind of like what those bad in-game adjustments looked like. It wasn't just a series. It was in other series as well. So, and I mean, I don't want to also like minimize the situation that he was going through. His brother just passed away in a car accident. It was like, it's very tragic. Obviously a hard time for Coach Bud. But at the end of the day, this like coaching firing was inevitable, I think, at some point. It's just that he decided to make that decision now. They decided to make the decision now when things look like they just completely fell apart for the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not gonna go. We're gonna talk more about the Milwaukee Bucks offseason probably in a future episode, but this is the first step into them finally making a decision to say, you know what? Yes, he was our championship coach, but clearly something wasn't working back then, and it's still carrying over to now, and nothing has really changed from that. So the firing, I think, was necessary. But Jay, I know I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Is there a potential head coach that you think that would work best for this Milwaukee Bucks team?
I mean, both of us kind of discussed it off camera a little bit, and I think you made a point that kind of clarifies where we're both going to lean with this one. But the X's and O's aspect of their team is the part that was hurting the most. They've got the run and jump athlete in Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've got the shooting across the board, whether it's Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez to a lesser degree. They've got a big time bench guy in Bobby Portis who got paid the bag, but also kind of came on a little bit of a hometown discount because they did him very favorably. And he's going to be there for, I think another year or two. Mm-hmm. And they have a solid number two option and number three option between Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday if they're able to retain Chris, right? Mm-hmm. So they've got the infrastructure for a team that can be championship caliber every single year. It's just the fact that once that team gets figured out in a 7-game series setting, mm-hmm. they have nobody at the front to be able to handle that. And so I think the guy that we both agree on is Nick Nurse. He's the guy that we saw when he was able to put together talent that was ready to go. And it came just down to making late game adjustments or even just in series adjustments in general. When the time came and the brights were lightest, he made decisions that really influenced series. There were a lot of times during that, a lot of people point to the heroics of Kawhi Leonard, but there were a lot of different things throughout those series, nuances to those series that from a coaching battle standpoint, I don't think we ever heard the idea of coaching matchups so much until that 2019 run. And that's because of just how much influence Nick Nurse had on a given game, especially like you mentioned, baseline out of bound plays and all different kind of things that created other opportunities for that team to thrive, despite the fact that they probably weren't the most talented team to win a championship in recent history. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the talent that Milwaukee does have, insert that guy at the front, okay, now you're cooking. So it's probably him.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, we both agree on this. I also think that Nick Nurse is. Bud is one of those coaches that are kind of conservative, like to kind of like stick by the book and stuff like that. Nick Nurse is willing to take risks. And when you have a lineup like the Milwaukee Bucks has, when you have the length similar to what the Raptors had in years past, when you have the shooting aspect, Nick Nurse is going to use that to his full advantage. Because not only do you have the length that the Raptors had in the past, the shooting, the offensive prowess is something that the especially the last 3 years the Raptors didn't have, and you have that here with the Milwaukee Bucks. So add Nick Nurse to that system. He's gonna be willing to take risks. He has the pedigree of winning an NBA championship. The Bucks saw that firsthand in that conference finals matchup that year as well. He can make these adjustments, and they can turn out to flip the series. I mean, the Bucks, they were up 2-0 against the Raptors that series, and then they lost 4 straight, and that had a lot to do with Kawhi Leonard, but also did a lot because of Nick Nurse's in-series coaching adjustments, which I think, again, the Bucks were definitely lacking in Mike Budenholzer. So, yes, we both agree that would probably be the best decision for the Bucks going forward. Let's see if they're actually going to pull through with that. Let us move off the coaching carousel. Let's move off of the coach talk, and let's talk about some NBA playoff basketball. Right now, let's talk about, honestly, like probably the most fun series so far of the second round, and then that is the Phoenix Suns taking on the Denver Nuggets. But more importantly, let's talk about the man of the series, freaking Devin Booker. Devin Booker, I'm gonna tell you, not even this series in general. These last two games,
Yeah.
40 plus points per game,
Mm.
80% from the field, over 60% from three, and I'm not even lying. This is some ridiculous stuff they were watching out of this guy who I feel like some people still underrate to this day in Devin Booker. But man, he looked like arguably him or Jimmy Butler at this point. Who has been the best player in the playoffs? He has definitely been up there. And it's raising a couple questions. Jay, is Devin Booker the most important player on the Phoenix Suns? Not the most talented, but the most important.
So this might not be like a popular opinion, but I think he is their most effective player. I think he's their most efficient player. But I don't think he's their most important player. And the reason why I say that is because this series is proving something that I think we were all aware of, but kind of just needed to see it in action. Devin Booker is going to get his. Kevin Durant still is managing to get his. Mind you, this is in the midst of watching Devin Booker drop 30 and 40 plus a night. Kevin Durant is also co-signed plus dropping 25 and 30 plus a night on his own accord,
Yes.
right? Their ability to be able to I think what was it, 45 and 36 respectively or something like that.
In the last game. Oh no,
yeah.
No, game 3. No, game 3. It was game 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was game 3 where it was basically just them two that were pretty much just keeping the thing even relatively close, right? Or at least relatively competitive.
Yeah.
They're going to get theirs, right, in terms of what they're able to do individually. I think the most important player for the Suns, though, is DeAndre Ayton. See, the weirdest thing about this series is how effective Nikola Jokic has been throughout this season. Nikola Jokic has been very good. Quietly so because of how insane Devin Booker has been playing. But Nikola Jokic has been very good this series. But you know what's kind of odd about that? The last time we saw the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns go up against each other, DeAndre Ayton gave Nikola Jokic significant problems throughout that series, which eventually led to the Phoenix Suns winning the series.
Yes.
Now, DA is not nearly as effective defensively against him. And although this series is 2-2, you could still look at this series and say that the Denver Nuggets have the control. Because as far as we are considering it, it has taken heroic performances by Devin Booker and Kevin Durant backpacking the squad for them to pull out these victories. So if either of these guys are to slip up, which we have already seen within this series where they're not both dropping 30 a game, that they can be had because their depth is still their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
So although, again, I think it's a weird answer because I understand that he is not having the most effective series, but I think that's why it's so important. The fact that on a team that is as top heavy as they are when we talk about how bad their depth is.
Yeah.
The fact that they're a top heavy team where before the postseason started, we mentioned if their top 4 guys are good to go, ain't nobody messing with them. Well, we haven't heard from anybody besides the top 2 guys since the postseason started.
Yeah.
And that's made it pretty rough for them since the beginning of the playoffs.
Yeah. I get what you mean. I 100% get what you mean with the DeAndre Ayton point. I would maybe not consider him the most important player. I would say that he's their biggest X factor because the minute I would say that if DeAndre Ayton were to provide them more than he has been, which is basically near to nothing at this point so far in the series, then the series could really flip on its head. But like you mentioned, even though the series tied at 2-2, I still feel the same way that the Denver Nuggets are still in control. But Devin Booker, man, in terms of the most important player at this point, it's between him and Kevin Durant. And although Kevin Durant probably is the more talented player, especially because they probably equal scoring ability, but also Kevin Durant just brings it more on the defensive end.
Yeah.
This Phoenix Suns system was built around Devin Booker, and the fact that he is still producing at this point with Kevin Durant on the team just shows the amount of trust that Monty has in him, and basically everyone on that team has on Devin Booker. He is the vocal leader. I mean, like he is becoming more of the vocal leader, more of the on-court leader, and it's showing even more now when Chris Paul has been injured and off the floor, that he is able to basically take over point guard responsibilities and like handle the ball like 80% of the game as well. Like I
So
mentioned, yeah. Go
let me
ahead.
ask you something real quick, because this actually might influence how I can flip this answer, because I also think that you make a really great point, and this might influence how I might change my answer from DA to Devin Booker in this sense. Do you think that similarly to how we have seen postseasons bring out the most in all-star caliber guards in the future, and it makes us feel differently about them as a talent moving forward, that in a postseason like this, where it is so top heavy, where it does lean so much more into how effective can Devin Booker be? Remember, there were all those talks about Chris Paul getting
Yeah.
MVP consideration last, I think it was last season or the season before, and it was because of his overall impact on things like culture and things like that. Where yes, Devin Booker might have been their best player, but all of the onus was being pushed in the favor of Chris Paul, who was the person who turned them into champions, right?
Yeah.
Is there a world where we're looking at this more through the lens of Devin Booker is turning the guard to the point where he is now truly being viewed as the 1A on his own team? Do you
It's
think it has
hard.
more to do with that?
Potentially. I mean, it's the fact that even in these games, when he has someone as talented as Kevin Durant on his team, and he is still the one like standing out, and the fact that like when you like think of like that aspect, I mean, you talked about like Devin Booker getting like maybe being like overshadowed, especially by Chris Paul in like previous years because of the way that Chris Paul has changed the culture.
Yeah.
The Suns run through through the demeanor of Devin Booker. Do not run through like the Chris Paul,
Yeah.
like through the Chris Paul sort of like the way that he like how he carries himself. They carry themselves the way Devin Booker does, and that is when we're on the court, we're all ballers. We all know like what our role is. We're going to fulfill that role. And Devin Booker does most of his talking on the court, even though he has said some questionable things off the court in the past about like about his opponents and stuff. But he's mostly, let me show you what I could do on the court to back up, that sort of thing. The entire Phoenix Suns team like rallies around that. They like follow like that lead. And I think that's what Devin Booker, especially in the series, has really been showing. His calm demeanor, the way that he has carried himself, has been able to let the Phoenix Suns defend home court. Because let's be honest, Kevin Durant, yes, he's been great. Hasn't been the most efficient KD that we've ever seen. But Devin Booker is doing this on some surreal levels right now. And he is the one delivering when the offense stalls, when the offense doesn't just seem right. You could just give him the ball, and it feels like every time he puts the shot up, it's going in. It's starting to switch. I'm still will say that again. Kevin Durant is still probably the better player, but this is Devin Booker's team. This is Devin Booker's team, and even at this point, I don't think he's like able to like let. I don't think like even like with this Kevin Durant addition, nothing has changed at that point.
I think I'll backpack your point by saying this. I agree with you that Kevin Durant is probably the more talented player. I agree with you on the fact that Kevin Durant is probably the more talented player, but I do not think that they are going to win any given series with this roster if Devin Booker is not a part of it. I also do not believe they win any more games of this series if Devin Booker does not play like we've seen him before. So in the case of him being most important from that perspective, I 100% agree, because I don't even think they sniff a win in this series if he plays anything beneath who he has been through this series so far.
Yeah, 100%. And he's doing this against Jamal Murray, who, let's be honest, is not having like he's having a pretty damn good series as well. But no one's talking about it because Kevin Durant's performances, Devin Booker's performances, Nikola Jokic's performances. He's like significantly winning the Jamal Murray matchup, and Jamal Murray is having a fantastic series as well, and that tells you a lot. And he's also outperforming Nikola Jokic, the two-time MVP. That is saying that like out of those four guys on the court, that he is the one that's standing out the most. That is definitely saying a lot for how much that Devin Booker has meant to the Phoenix Suns, especially in this playoff run. But man, the guard talk continues, because we're going to be looking forward to the 76ers Boston Celtics matchup. And the 76ers have tied the series up at 2 apiece, but there has been a consistent factor in those 2 wins, And the consistent factor in those 2 wins has been James Harden. Because in the 2 games where he has absolutely took over and dominated, when he had like basically 2 40-point games, that is when they won those games, and they were able to handle one of the clutchest teams in the league in the Boston Celtics in those 2 games as well. But Jay, I'm going to propose to you another question. Another like important question. Who is more important to the 76ers success? Who's the one whose success determines their fate going forward? Embiid or James Harden?
Now, I think this one we both will actually agree with pretty head on. I won't take a wild card on this one. I think it is James Harden, not just because of his influence within the series, but our overall understanding of who James Harden is a player, specifically in these kind of settings. James Harden, there were a lot of people who might have overreacted to what James Harden did. By the way, I like reverse. I think I literally called it on the podcast before game 1, by the way.
Yeah.
In that podcast, I literally said this might be a hot take, but I think that James Harden's been due for a game and he's gonna go crazy in this one. Now, if I'm
I do
wrong
remember
and
that. I remember
clowning
that.
me, then
I remember that.
Now, if I'm wrong and somebody clowns me the next day because they lose by 20, which ended up happening in game 2, but like if they go down and they lose by 20 or 30 points, then I'll look like an idiot. But I feel like James Harden's gonna go off, and the dude snapped for what was his best game of his postseason career until recently, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, right? But I'm not even trying to like give myself flowers for that one. What I'm trying to say is when James Harden is on, especially when we know what James Harden as a solo act is capable of, the presence of Joel Embiid is almost more of a luxury than it is necessarily a necessity. Right?
Yes.
I'm not saying that the Sixers are a championship caliber team without Joel Embiid on it. I think they still need him as a part of the fray. But I don't necessarily know if Joel Embiid, well, first of all, I don't even know if Joel Embiid is capable of being the best player on the championship team. That's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a hot take in its own sense. That's a conversation we could table depending on how this postseason goes. But with Joel's track history, as a track record, I should say, as an injured commodity throughout the postseason most years, I don't know if he can be your lead guy on a championship caliber team. That's number one. But number two is I think that James Harden, we have an understanding that he has a gear that he can click into, and when he clicks into it, he's like a top 5 player in the league. I think Joel Embiid is a top 5 player in the league, but I think he is what we see him as. I don't know if there's another gear to Joel's game that we haven't seen. I think James Harden plays so one way this night, another way the other night, that you know there's a ceiling there, but there's a ceiling to him on a regular sense, but there's another level that he's able to take himself to if he simply puts himself in the mindset to do so.
Yeah.
So I think James Harden has so much influence on the championship run of a Philadelphia 76ers team because all we've ever said was if Joel can get some legitimate help that complements his skill set, they're a real championship team, which means that you believe that under the current circumstances, Joel cannot be the leader on a championship team without help in terms of in form of a co-star. James Harden might be more than help if he's the guy we think he is.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I'm gonna preface this by saying that now it is Harden. Harden is the most important guy, 100% the most important player to this team's success, and it's not because of Joel Embiid's talent. It's just the way the NBA works, and this is gonna be a common theme throughout this entire episode. We talked about it with Devin Booker. We're gonna talk about it here with James Harden. You cannot have a big be the best player on a championship team, that it has to be a wing or some sort of guard play. It has to be elite guard play. And you can look at any championship team in NBA history. Last year with the Golden State Warriors, 2 years ago, yes, you can make the case that Giannis was the best player on the court for sure, but he is still more of a perimeter-based player the way he's run. LeBron's won multiple championships. Kawhi Leonard that year, he won with Toronto. As much as the big men, especially recently, have been dominating the MVP discussions and Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, there's one championship between the three. And you know who's the ones winning championships? Steph Curry's, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard's. you're getting very close to Devin Booker that 1 year as well. Like, those are the guys that are going to be the ones taking you guys to the next level. Embiid being at his best, being his MVP self against the Celtics is not enough. It's just not enough for him, especially with the depth the Celtics have and the talent they have up and down the roster. James Harden, if he's playing the way that he's playing, especially when he's like on one, especially scoring, it helps even things up on the perimeter, and it also helps him up clutch time. Because as much as, again, as good of a player Joel Embiid is, when it comes to the last shot in the game, you're not giving the ball down low to Joel Embiid or letting him operate in the perimeter. James Harden in those two games hit the biggest shots of the game, either creating for himself on that step back to Al Horford or moving off the ball and being the open guy for Joel Embiid to pass out of a double to. The 76ers are a talented enough have shown that they are talented enough and are a good enough team to match up with the Celtics. But it's no coincidence that James Harden's play, being the best player on the court, is has some correlation into that. And we all know he's capable because of what he's done in Houston. But because of the time he's had with the Brooklyn Nets and now with Joel Embiid, he's had to defer. And that's completely fine because that's what like good point guards do. He has led the league and assists a couple of times away from the Houston Rockets. But he needs to be the guy to take over this offense, the guy who's be able to get for himself as well as feed others in order for them to have a chance to win the series against the Boston Celtics. Getting production from Maxey and Melton too has been big, but James Harden playing at his best, playing the way that he's playing right now is the reason, and it's going to be the reason why if they do end up winning a championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of even put like a little bit of put a bow on this conversation in terms of talking about importance, right? Game 3, Joel Embiid, 30, 13, and 3, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. But James Harden, 16, 6, and 11. They lose by 12 points, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to the game the other night. Joel Embiid.
He was garbage. 30, he was garbage. Oh, which one? Oh, you're talking about the last game. The last game.
Yeah, last game. Okay. Joel Embiid last game, right? So game 3, he drops 30, 11, and goes crazy from the free throw line.
Yeah.
They lose by 12. Mm-hmm. Joel Embiid, similar game in game 4. 34, 13, and 4. 12 of 15 from the free throw line. James Harden, 42. This is going from 16 to 42, 8, and 9. They win in overtime by 1. Granted, the by 1 is the tough part, but the difference is Joel Embiid from game to game, from 3 to 4, was the same player in terms of his dominance. Both physically on the glass, getting to the free throw line, he was the same player from a dominance standpoint. Why was this game? Why did they lose by 12 last game versus winning by 1 in this game? The difference was James Harden.
James Harden is the difference. And as seen throughout the series too, the contribution to the game from DeAnthony Melton, the contribution to the game from Tyrese Maxey
PJ Tucker's been big.
PJ Tucker's been big too. The perimeter players are what turning the series around because yes, Joel Embiid is great. He deserves MVP. But getting inside and trying to like win that way is clearly not gonna like beat this Boston Celtics team. When you have the other guys playing the way they are at the best level, that is what's gonna turn the series. And that's the reason why the series is tied at 2-2. There was like some like question marks whether the series was going to go short. I think like I had it going short because I didn't think Embiid was going to play that well. He's been fine. But you had the series going 6 in Boston's way. But I'm assuming if James Harden and the other guards are playing the way they are, it could definitely they have a chance. The 76ers definitely have a chance.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun series to see close out.
Yeah. 3 more games, best of 3 finally for these two. It's gonna be a fun way to see how this closes out. More guard talk in this next segment as well. But instead of talking about probably some of the best guards in the league in Devin Booker and James Harden, we gotta talk about probably one of the most disappointing players in the playoffs so far, and Jordan Poole. Now, last year the conversation around Jordan Poole was that he was the Golden State Warriors X factor, and in games where Clay wasn't hitting, when the offense wasn't going, Jordan Poole would just kind of bail them out of some crazy situations. We've seen that last year. Last year in the playoffs, he was averaging like 17 points a game on pretty good efficiencies. And we already know about, I think we talked about this in previous episodes as well. Jordan Poole in those, like in the first 3 games of like, each of those series were just like bonkers. Like, he went like absolutely bonkers. This year, 11 points per game, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, on 28% shooting from 3, 35% shooting from the field. He has not been nearly the same player as he was last year, and they just gave him the bag. The Warriors gave him the absolute bag. So, Jay, here's my question to you. Is Jordan Poole still the future of the Warriors? Or did the Warriors just take it out giving him that contract?
It took an L, bro, because the truth is that the Warriors have to understand that their window is right now. This team is not built off of player development anymore, gang. That ship has sailed. The minute Steph Curry became who he was or who he is, the minute Klay Thompson became the guy he is, the minute they got their stuff handled in terms of Draymond Green and stuff, like, this team is fully actualized now, bro. Like, in terms of their core guys, the guys that they win games with, really win ball games with, Draymond, Kevon Looney, like I said, Steph, Klay, those guys are fully actualized. I'm sorry, but this even goes back to our initial philosophy about Steve Kerr in the beginning, taking the team from Mark Jackson. I don't think this team was ever not ready. I think they just needed the right voice to get them over the hump to being ready for the next thing. I think they were prepared for postseason basketball. I think they were prepared to take the next step towards being a championship caliber team. But they needed the voice to be a catalyst for that. So this team has truly been about player development, right? In terms of them being a real championship contender over these last 6 to 7 years now. So guys like Jordan Poole, when you pay them the bag, you get to realize after the fact, it usually takes about that next season after the fact, that buyer's remorse is real. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. I mean, I hate to just pick on the Heat guys, but like insert your microwave score or insert Otto Porter, right? Insert your guy who's my man, the Latvian laser? Who's my boy?
Bertans.
Bertans. Like, insert player here who's had an insane 3-point shooting season or just had an exponential jump in terms of points per game in a given season where his opportunity went up. And all of a sudden you're humbled the year after he gets paid because you realize this is a skill set that has a short shelf life because there's only certain guys that are built to be 38% 3-point shooters for their freaking career. There's only a handful of guys that go from being a solid scorer to an elite scorer in a sustainable fashion. You want to know what's sustainable? There's been 10 games for the Golden State Warriors this postseason. Jordan Poole has had 10 or less in 6 of them. That's sustainable. You can look at the situation and say, Jordan Poole, you want to know something I can keep consistent throughout this entire postseason? Jordan Poole ain't been it. He ain't been it. He scored 20 points. He scored 20 or more in 2 games this postseason. 2 of them. This is a guy who I think was averaging near 20 a game last postseason and that crazy run that got him the bag.
Yeah.
Right?
He was averaging 18 points a game. He was still.
I was going to say, I think it was like 18.6 or something like that. But still. So, and then you have to talk about, and you hate to do this because it's like not to a guy. When you talk about the quote, future of the franchise, we also have to ask ourselves, how far of a drop off is it from Steph? Right? Because a season ago, we all were saying third splash, bro. Right? We were all banging the table for the potential. Oh, he's the next beat. The passing the baton to the next splash, bro.
Nah.
I don't see it. Maybe we're being hyper reactionary. Maybe we were being hyper reactionary last season. That's for people to decide. Yeah. But what we can say is that there's 2 tails to Jordan Poole. He's the guy who can give you the 20 plus a game in a very microwave fashion and make you feel like he is a legitimate threat on the floor at all times. And he's also the guy that we've seen multiple times over the last couple of months in particular, literally shoot you out of a game. Literally, right? His poor decision making at the end of games, his high volume shooting without being efficient.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel you. It's again, I don't want to be like we were last year. We were hyper reactionary. I don't want to be hyper reactionary now and say that this is definitely a miss. It feels still too early to tell. But it has been an underwhelming season for Jordan Poole. He hasn't been the most efficient. His efficiency numbers have gone down. And especially in the playoffs that's where he made his name, he has been more of a detriment to this team than he has been a positive. Yes. The shot decision making aspect 100%. It has not improved. The shot decision making has not improved. And at this point of the series as well, when he's on the court sometimes he's not free flowing. He's not moving the ball like moving around the court as he was doing last year. He feels kind of lost on the court. That's what it feels like with Jordan Poole sometimes. That's why they would rather close games with a JaMychal Green, a Kevon Looney. They would sacrifice the scoring to just have guys just fit better because Jordan Poole at times, I mean, we've seen in that, I think, was it game 1 or game 2 where he Steph Curry is being double teamed. They still have 10 seconds left in the shot clock to get a better shot. This guy basically chucked it from half court. I mean, I think people overreacted saying that was the worst shot ever. I mean, he is open. He has hit shots like that in the past, but time and place. That's the thing with Jordan Poole. Time and place has always been an issue for him. And he's still young. He could definitely work on those things. But like you mentioned off the top, players like Jordan Poole, I'm not going to say are a dime a dozen, but you can find them pretty readily in the NBA. There's some guys where they haven't just gone out the opportunity yet and have the potential to do something like this. Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero, these type of players should not be getting $25-30 million a year. I think you've seen guys I think we mentioned it pre-show, the Lou Williams of the world, the Jordan Carsons of the world. These guys were making under $15 million and producing the way they were off the bench. And I'm not saying that these guys shouldn't get the bag. They 100% should get the bag if it is being offered to them. But for teams who are looking at these microwave scorers like a Hero, like a Jordan Poole, you can, if you find someone like that and you want to fit them on your team, the $20 to $25 million range is more than sufficient enough for these type of players because you could find them. Honestly, we found Tyler Hero in the 13th pick of the draft. Jordan Poole was found in the late 20s. I think he was, or maybe he was a second round pick, right? I think he was a second round pick. Something like that.
I think he was still first. But it was low first.
I have this thing here, 28th. Yeah, 28th overall pick. Yeah. So so you could find these guys going in the draft. These are not guys that are you're betting on in the top half, at least at the top 10 of the draft to kind of save your franchise. No, these are guys that you kind of stumble onto some gold and you kind of ride the wave until you can't anymore. The Heat have seen that with Tyler Hero, especially now with the injury and also with the Duncan Robinson contract. And the Warriors are feeling the effects right now of the Jordan Poole contract. Again, I don't want to say it's too that it's 100% a miss, but right now when you look at progression from last year to this year, there really hasn't been in Jordan Poole.
TV, we're gonna play a game. We don't usually do this on the podcast because we usually save these segments for the back nine. But today because we don't have a quiz, we only have the draft that we're gonna be doing later on today. Let's play a little game of Would You Rather real fast.
Okay, sure. Let's go.
Let's go through a handful of guys. Would you rather Jordan Poole edition, Jordan Poole, or Tyrese Maxey?
Give me Tyrese Maxey, better decision maker.
Same. Jordan Poole or J-Dub?
No, this is really banking on it. But if you take into account the contract, take into account the play style. Mm-hmm. Okay, the contract is just way too much for me. Give me J-Dub. I'd rather have him on a rookie contract than Jordan Poole on his contract right now.
I think if you take contract out of it and you just focus on skill set, I still think that Jalen Williams at the guard position is much more effective and much more impactful long term than whatever this version of Jordan Poole is, with not much further of a way to go from who he is already.
Okay, fair.
Jordan Poole or Anthony Simons?
Okay. Anthony Simons, I think he's just especially a lot more efficient from the 3 ball. He can play the point guard position, and he's getting better as a passer. Give me Anthony.
I'm taking Anthony Simons as well. Anthony Simons has been extremely efficient, whether he was playing next to or without Damian Lillard. We've seen a significant sample size of both, and he's been the same guy throughout both things, which shows his significant upside. Yeah. Jordan Poole or Jalen Green?
Okay. Again, you know what? We'll take contracts out of it.
Yeah, of course. I think you should.
The potential of Jalen Green is too much for me. I would take Jalen Green at this moment, like long term.
I think Jalen Green is what Jordan Poole is, but the athleticism gives him a gear that might take him beyond what Jordan Poole could ever top out as.
Yeah.
I think that Jalen Green offensively could be, especially with a green light that Jordan Poole has been given, and to a certain extent, the green light that he's already been given, if we're talking about Jalen Green in Houston, I think Jalen Green as a scorer is already about as good as Jordan Poole offensively. But I think he has enough offensive upside with his athleticism where he could easily top out as much better than Jordan Poole just with that attribute alone.
Yeah, we've definitely not seen the best of Jalen Green. There's still so much more we could see out of him. So, yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I definitely agree with that as well. And then the last guy that we're going to talk about that I think when you talk about now, I want to factor in money a little bit with this one, but I also want to kind of think about just future assets as well. When you look at a guy like Jordan Poole, let's compare him. Who's the last person I want to compare him to? I think a good dude to compare him to would be, I feel like I got a lot of the really good names. But here's a contrast that I want because I don't know if he's necessarily as good offensively as Jordan Poole is. Jordan Poole or Desmond Bane?
Well, I
feel like it should easily be Desmond Bane, but I think when you look at offensive upside, you might lean the other way. Maybe.
Desmond Bane he hasn't got the bag yet, right? He hasn't got the bag.
Not yet. I think if it's not this summer, it's the summer after.
I worry about his fit long term with Ja, but I think that, especially this year has kind of been a down year for Desmond Bane, especially efficiency wise. We've seen him more efficient in the year prior.
That's why I think it's a question.
I'm still gonna go Desmond Bane. I would still go with him, especially just because I think he again as an off-ball player, I think he kind of just knows himself more, and I still think that maybe even though we might have seen the best of Desmond Bane, I still think that it's gonna be a more consistent thing than Jordan Poole will ever be.
As far as I'm concerned, another thing that's the end of our game, but also just to kind of flesh out what we're saying, these 6-man guys that can fill up the box score in a hurry, they're all throughout the league. Ben Mathurin was a guy that was getting that kind of hype earlier in the season, right? Mm-hmm. Kobe White, I think for my Chicago Bulls, has real prowess as a 6-man guy that can come in and just go get buckets for you really quickly. Somebody who maybe doesn't fill up the stat sheet nearly as much as these other guys, but Cameron Payne, when he is a demon for the Phoenix Suns when he's playing well. There's these guys that just have Malik Monk, another one who had an outstanding postseason and a really great year for the Sacramento Kings this year. These guys, I don't want to say necessarily grow on trees, but they're not like a dime a dozen, like how we talk about the small forward two-way wing position. They're not like that.
Yeah.
These microwave scoring guards are more similar to quickly replaceable centers and easily battered and brooded, replace them the next year running backs in the NFL. They are closer to that than they are the generational point guard or the once in every 2 or 3 years you get the two-way wing that can imprint his overall skill set on a given game night in and night out. It's not these microwave guards are much closer to the latter than the former.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Again, I do believe that there are even more of these guys in the league. They're just hidden on on someone's bench. You can even talk about a Cam Thomas for a Brooklyn Nets. These are just guys that are just hiding on someone's bench, waiting for the opportunity, and they can absolutely explode and get the bag as well. I just think that again, you can just easily find those more. And although, again, I don't want to be too early on the Jordan Poole slander in terms of his contract, we're going to have to see some more development soon because they're betting on this guy to be part of their long-term future. And so far, especially in this playoff run, it's not looked good, especially in terms of improvement. But shout out to the Lakers, though. They are doing we talk about how bad especially how Jordan Poole is killing the Warriors. killing the Warriors right now? The Lakers, man. Good on them. Freaking Anthony Davis. I mean, we talked about Anthony Davis in the past. Now people are calling him alternate Davis because he's only playing well every other game. It's just like the Lakers are playing really well. And Jay, I maybe you're fearing this as much as I do. They actually look like they might make it to the conference final.
Bro, I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you that this series right here, bro, it's not. It's only proving the theory, bro. It's only proving the theory that the freaking snowball that's been rolling down this mountain for a while in favor of the Lakers, it's only getting bigger, bro. It's only getting, and now the series is 2-2, and everything's calm sailing from here, bro. Like, it's scary to think about. But as far as the Lakers should be concerned, this series is in the palm of their hands. They haven't had 4 games of dominant Anthony Davis. But whenever the Anthony Davis has been on point, dude, they've won by 20 plus. Like, every time
they won by 30 the last game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, they're a team that, like, when they get that kind of effectiveness from Anthony Davis, I mean, the Warriors aren't close. So it goes to prove that the gap between those two teams ain't as wide as maybe we thought it was before the series started. Now, mind you, I picked Golden State. I believe it was in 7 games. And it was because of the fact that I felt like Golden State was going to have to get it done at home if they were going to be able to hold them off. But I told you, if you told me the morning after Game 7 that the Lakers won, I would not be shocked, because it just feels like all of the momentum has been with the Lakers over the last 4 to 5 weeks, and it's still going.
That's the thing. It's crazy. It's nuts. Like, even if they say if they get out of this round, you're facing up against a vulnerable Denver Nuggets team as seen in this series. They're like vulnerable. And then the way DeAndre Ayton's playing right now, this guy is not going to be able to handle Anthony Davis in a 7-game series. There's a path where we could see the 7-seed Lakers in the NBA Finals.
Oh,
there's a path. There's a path.
Did the play-in work, TV? Did the play-in work?
The play-in worked. And two months ago, they were the 13th seed. How did we get here? How the heck did we get here with the Los Angeles Lakers?
Crazy.
The path is there, man. The path is there. One last series to talk about before we get into the draft. The next seed. I didn't want to talk about this too long because I feel like this has become a reoccurring segment on the show. But I will say, I won't go to it yet, but I will say this about this series, especially with the New York Knicks. For whoever says that Julius Randle is the more important player to this team than Jalen Brunson, get out of here. Please, I am not hearing that conversation anymore. Because if Jalen Brunson is not producing offensively, this team goes nowhere. Goes absolutely nowhere. You think that Julius Randle and RJ Barrett combining for 9 for 31 in the last game is going to take them places? Nah. Jimmy Butler laughs in their face at that. Like, literally after that Game 3, that game, I think was it the Game 2 win against the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler was just looking at the Knicks and just laughing because he saw something there. And he saw that this team was vulnerable. And it looks like the Heat are in the driver's seat. Jay, any quick thoughts on this series?
Bro, Jimmy Butler plays, the game is over. Like, Jimmy Butler plays, they have nobody in this series that can contain him. Like, they just don't. Like, it's crazy because they have great on-ball defenders like Josh Hart on the squad, but it's like, bro, anybody going 1v1 with Jimmy is barbecue chicken, unfortunately. Like, basically, when he play, and like, Kevin Love has played relatively well. Kyle Lowry's starting to get himself back in there. Like, yeah, Max Strus is having himself a series right now, boy. Oh my goodness,
yes,
that boy is having himself a series. So, I mean, like, this is the thing, man. Like, I think we brought it up in the preview for this, bro. Like, at the end of the day, like, they are a team that every time you talk crazy on things like their depth or their lack of talent, or we were worried that, like, the Tyler Hero thing was going to have some real influence, or like Victor Oladipo going down. Yeah. And they just keep finding a reason. TV, who would have thought that after being completely unplayable for most of last postseason and quite literally barely sniffing the court for most of this season, that they were allowed to dust off Duncan Robinson and get a solid series out of him so far, bro? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? But here are the Miami Heat doing exactly what they kind of do all the time now. And you know what, man? I got super. I'm gonna do it on the podcast. I gotta apologize to the Miami Heat, bro. We do this every single year, and I think I've even written this too. That like I have to apologize to this team because it's like every single year we talk about them as not being good enough, or what's the ceiling on a Jimmy Butler led team as your your number one guy? Can Bam Adebayo not being super aggressive really be your second best player on a championship team? And it's like every single year we got to sit here and eat crow because they make us look silly. And they prove to us that their overall culture and play style just translates well to the postseason. And it gets them far all the time.
I mean, this year out of most years, like, we had more reason to. Because their guys weren't hitting shots all season long. None of these guys, like, we talked about Strus, we talked about Duncan Robinson, we talked about Kyle Lowry. All of them were buns in the regular season. Absolute buns. But playoff time comes around, and these guys hit their shots. We didn't even talk about Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent had a bad game last game, but this guy has freaking had some, like, crazy moments in the playoffs so far this year as well. It just time and place. Same thing with the Los Angeles Lakers. Time and place. They just know when to perform, when the lights are brightest, when the time comes, and this is what's happening. And once again, like, I can't believe that, especially this year, out of all the years. The other years I could, like, forgive myself. I could be like, you know what, I was stupid. I should not have doubted the Heat. This year we had every reason to doubt the Heat. Every single reason. They lost by 14 points to the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in game. They needed a 14-0 run to beat your Chicago Bulls. Like, we had every reason to doubt them this year. And once again, Jimmy Butler continues to do playoff Jimmy type things. And for some reason, once the playoffs comes around, everyone starts hitting their shots. It doesn't make sense, bro. It just doesn't make sense. But it's coming out again. And the Miami Heat look like they're in the driver's seat of the series. Before we move on, time for me to diss this man. Julius Randle, 4 for 15. Sure, you had a good game too. That doesn't matter. Jimmy Butler didn't play. I don't count that. 13 points in that first game as well. I mean, bro, this guy just cannot perform in the playoffs. We talked about, like, people were talking about him being, like, their most important player besides Jalen Brunson. Nah, Jalen Brunson is clear. They needed a point guard. This is the reason why they're even this far in the series, because of Jalen Brunson. Julius Randle is not him, dude. Julius Randle is just not that guy. We talked about how bad Karl-Anthony Towns performs in the playoffs. Julius Randle is on that same level in terms of disappointment in the playoffs, and I can't freaking stand it. Every time he freaking fools us in the regular season, I can't stand it.
Dude, let's just let the numbers do their talking. Last season, or the last time the Knicks were in the postseason, we thought that Julius Randle had a complete fall off from what was an All-NBA caliber year, right?
Yeah.
Goes into the postseason. 18 points a game, 11.6 rebounds a game, 85% from the free throw line. Oh, it sounds good. No, it's not, because check this efficiency real quick. 33.3% from the three-point line, 29.8% from the field. That was last postseason. Mind you, the dude averaged nearly 18 and 12. That was a double-double postseason for him. Yeah. This year, this team has went longer and played probably better competition. He's averaging 15.3, 8.3 rebounds a game, 71% from the free throw line this year on less free throw attempts, 22.9% from three on nearly the same amount of attempts, and 34.6% from the field on less shots.
I can't stand this dude, bro.
This dude is worse this year in the postseason than he was last time, and we thought he wasn't ready for those bright lights the first go around.
I'm tired of this Julius Randle talk, bro. He's giving us every reason to freaking diss him on his pod, and we're just gonna let the numbers do the talking. There's another game today. I just got a notification that Emmanuel Quickly's not playing, so you're gonna need a better game from Julius Randle. But man, the Heat, bro, are locking his ass down right now, and I just don't. He's just not a playoff performer, guy. He is just not that bad. I'm just tired of seeing freaking Julius Randle freaking having us fooled in the regular season all the time. Pascal's clear, man. Pascal is absolutely clear of this dude. Final segment of the show. If there's any thoughts you had on any of this playoff talk, let us know down below. But we have reached the final segment of the show, and like Jay mentioned earlier, we are not doing a quiz, but we are bringing back the drafts. And today's draft, we have a very interesting one. It's another all-time one. But Jay, in this draft, we are drafting a starting 5 of purely point guards.
Mm-hmm.
Purely point guards. All time. But man, this is gonna be a tough one because there's only, again, especially with the 4 positions, there's only so few guys you could choose here. But there are so many like great point guards in NBA history that we're just gonna completely ignore just so we can like have some sort of like advantage against the other guy on some teams. So there's gonna be definitely some erratic picks here, but should be really good. And again, we're doing it serpentine style. So Jay usually starts off with these drafts. He's gonna get the first pick. I get the next 2 picks. He gets the next 2 picks, and so on and so forth. But Jay, you get the first pick of this draft. Who do you got?
Ooh. Oh man, I'm between 2 guys, and I feel like if I answer this one way, it's gonna go back on my answer from last week that we talked about. Nah, man, I still gotta do it. I gotta go. Give me Steph, bro. I'm still going with Steph Curry. I gotta pull it. I said he was the best PG of all time after the way he's played these last couple of years, and then you include the way this postseason has went. If the best PG in the NBA doesn't come off the board, then it's not a real draft.
That's fair. I mean, we completely dissed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when we did the freaking all 7-footers draft. So
yeah, that was bad. I also don't want to make that mistake either. So.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not gonna make that mistake either because my first pick here, I'm taking Magic Johnson. He's playing my center. The one guy who I think is best for the center position. I'm taking him off the board. Give me Magic Johnson, the 6'9" guy, the 6'9" monster. Who, what's it called? The 1980 finals, was it? The 1979 finals where he replaced Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the starting lineup and freaking absolutely dominated. Give me him at my center position. My next position, you took Steph Curry. I think this is a very underrated pick because I don't think there's many like point guards that could make really good wings here. But I think this is the perfect guy for it. Give me Penny Hardaway at the 3.
Oh, TV. That was a really good one. Okay, that's a really good one.
Give me Penny at the 3. I think that slots in perfectly. The athleticism, passing ability, the ball handling. Penny was that guy in his prime.
That's a really good pick. that's a really good pick, bro. Oh man, so I got 2 picks, right?
Yeah, you got back to back. Now, okay, before you make your picks, there's one obvious point guard that can play the center position. I don't know if you're gonna go with him or not, but I'll wait and see. I feel like you.
Is it obvious though? Because is it obvious where we also won't get joked on? Let me make sure I get that out the way. I think you're talking about.
We might get joked on, but his prime version is pretty damn good.
That's true. The prime, if we're counting the prime version.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. God, I hate this, bro. Because you took the 2 tallest guys on the. Okay, TV. I'm not gonna cheat, so I'm gonna clear it with you. Does Luka count as a point guard?
Yes, he does.
He does. Okay, I just want to make sure. I want to clear it because I don't want to cheat.
Yeah.
I don't want to cheat.
I'm okay. I count him as a point guard.
Okay. So then this answer gets super easy.
Okay.
I'm putting Luka at the 3 and I'm getting Prime D Rose at 2.
Oh, okay. I like that.
For sure. Like this is how this goes. For sure.
Oh. Was that the guy that you were talking about to me, like trying to get to the prime version? Because there's some other guy that I was.
No. I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
But I think I can get him a little later on.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm safe to get him later.
Okay, fair. I'm telling you right now, I'm not picking him. Okay. So what do I got now? I got Petty. I got Magic. I'm liking it so far. I think there's 2 guys I can put at the 4 position, so I'm gonna hold off. Give me. At the point guard position. Actually, give me the shooting guard position. Give me Dame Lillard.
Oh.
Give me Damian Lillard.
That's real good, bro.
Damian Lillard. And that means, because I don't mind getting either of these guys at my 4 position, so I can hold off on that. For my point guard position, give me the best defensive point guard of all time, Gary Payton.
Dang. I don't think I have any defense on my team now that I'm sitting here thinking about it.
I mean, I barely had defense, so I just had to get Gary, get the best one.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we need a big body front court because my team is definitely like still kind of small. I mean, Luka helps, but okay. I'm gonna cheat again because I have the last two picks anyway, right? So I mean, might as well.
Let's see if I'll clear it. Let's see.
Not necessarily in terms of a player, but I'm switching
Yeah.
where Luka is. That's
Okay,
what I mean
sure.
when I say cheat.
Oh, got you. Okay, got you.
So I'm gonna move Luka to the 4 because I need him to stretch the
Yeah.
floor. We're getting Oscar Robertson and we're putting him at the 3.
That's my pick.
And I looked it up to confirm. Ben Simmons is the tallest point guard in NBA history.
Yes, that's who I thought.
So he's playing center today.
Okay.
And I guess what? As far as I'm concerned, in the live NBA, he plays center anyway. So it's gonna have to work itself out.
Yeah, it's gonna work itself. I was gonna say, Ben Simmons was gonna get chosen. He was eventually gonna get chosen.
Prime Ben Simmons is still a real good talking topic though. So I mean, it's like, we clown on him now, but if we are getting the prime version of him.
Yeah, one who's not afraid to go to the rim. Yes, we will take that Ben Simmons 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I really didn't want you to take Oscar. That would have been my final pick.
Yeah.
But now I'm down to 2 guys actually, because I think both of these guys are solid point guards, and I think this is my last pick, so I can talk it out loud.
Okay.
Jason Kidd or Russell Westbrook?
Wait, what position have you not filled yet?
I could put Penny at the 4 actually. Go with Jason Kidd. Go Russell. Ooh. You know what? I need a genuine heart leader. Give me the guy who will play his ass off every single position. Give me Russell Westbrook.
I like that.
Give me Russell Westbrook at my 4 position. He's definitely not the tallest out there, but he's gonna freaking out rebound Ben Simmons. I'm gonna tell you that.
No, for sure. I was just thinking about that too. Like if you're talking about out hustle and also like your team is already like big, but now you've also added a smaller player that plays big, so that also really kind of helps you out. So I like that one. J Kidd is a solid pick, but I also think you having Magic Johnson makes him a little expendable. So it works out. It works.
Yeah, 100%. So give me Russell Westbrook. He's gonna run my 4 position. I will personally tell him not to shoot any 3-point shots, but that is completely fine. Actually, I just realized I probably don't have many shooters in general. Oh gosh, my shooting is so ass, but it's fine. It is completely fine. We'll rock with the athleticism and defense as well. But before we head out, Jay, tell me how your lineup is shaking up right now.
All right, man. So we've got Steph Curry at the 1. I'm gonna stick with D Rose at the 2.
Yeah.
Oscar Robertson at the 3, Luka Doncic as our stretch 4, and then Ben Simmons at the 5.
I just realized both our teams are probably pretty ass shooting wise, apart from like one player. So it's fine. I think I'll be completely fine with that. So my point guard position, give me Gary Payton. You can put him at the 1 or 2 actually. Actually, no, let's put him at the 2. Let's have Damian Lillard run the 1. At the small 4 position, give me Penny Hardaway. Give me at the power forward position, give me Brody himself, Russell Westbrook. And then last but not least, at the center position, give me Irvin Magic Johnson to run the center position. We've seen him do it before, and now he has to deal with Ben Simmons, and he can leave him wherever he wants. You can leave him wherever he wants. Do you, Magic? Just roam in the paint. Who cares about Ben Simmons? But yeah, let us know down below which team is the better one down below. I'm also, hopefully we can have a TikTok up about this, and we can also have you guys choose that as well. But Jay, we have reached an end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Jay, to send them out, what do you have to say to these beautiful people?
Bro, first of all, we left off a bunch of great PGs. So also, if you guys can build a team that somehow is better than either me or TVs out of the guys remaining, drop a team down below because I think you can still probably put together a pretty crazy squad, even without the guys that we already took off the board.
Yeah, no, I mean, was there other guys that you were considering? Like one guy I was considering was Fat Lover.
You skipped out on J Kidd, Steve Nash, Chris Paul are still here. John Stockton is still here.
Kyrie.
I think Kyrie is still on the board. I think obviously when you talk about size, that's maybe where like, okay, we took the 2 biggest guys that probably come to mind. So maybe that's where things get a little complicated. But in terms of actual like talent at the point guard position, some teams maybe they might not be as big as our team, but they might be able to outpace us. Like you said, our teams don't have shooting like that. They might just 5 out our squad, and who knows? Like, you know what I mean? So there's still a lot of different potential ways that you could go about, playing this. Gilbert didn't come up. Granted, I don't think he was going to come up in this section, but when you talk about all-time versions of themselves,
yeah,
he's a guy who might still get a look from somebody if they're thinking about trying to match up against our teams. So
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
there's some
I
great
feel.
guys left off the list, but outside of that, man, great playoffs so far. All of the series are still extremely competitive. So by the next time we record this another podcast, I don't think any of these series are gonna be like over. Like I think that I think that all these series can really go the distance. The Knicks are in trouble. So
Yeah.
but for the most part, I think that all these series could legit go the distance. And if any of them don't make it to the next time we record, it's probably because the Knicks are gone.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely. I have a feeling there's gonna be at least one series is gonna probably not. It's probably gonna not make it by the time we record the next one, and we are gonna be definitely discussing that in the next episode as well as the other playoff matches, because so far it has been absolutely great, and we are excited to see more of that playoff basketball. But yeah, this is the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to follow our personal socials at TV on Basketball Knockdown J down below. Check out all of our socials for the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, the YouTube, the podcast networks, all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening. Hope you all have a fantastic day. That's Jay signing out. This is TV. Have a wonderful day, guys. Take it easy. Peace.